Do you remember what you thought of anime before you watched it? Maybe you thought it was weird. If you did, you're not wrong. That doesn't take anything away from how amazing it can be, but sometimes people need something to ease them in. Enter the Breaking Bad and gateway drug of anime, Death Note. While Pokemon or Dragon Ball Z were technically the first anime I watched, Death Note was my first real introduction to it. The one that opened up the floodgates and made me an animaniac. If you want to get a friend into anime, watch this video and then show them Death Note because it is the best starter anime there is. Also, throughout this video, I'm going to leave hints of the next anime I watched after Death Note, so throw your guesses in the comments. What makes Death Note a great starter anime? Well, a lot of anime are way out there and thus require a larger leap to buy in. Death Note is set in the real world, so it's not asking too much right off the bat. Fighting with magical swords is cool and all, but that requires a bit more suspension of disbelief. It's also more of a psychological thriller, which lends itself to being more palatable to general audiences. It's one of the rare series where the plot is simple, entertaining, and thrilling on the surface, so anyone can enjoy, but the more you think about it, the deeper it goes, so it satisfies hardcore fans too. It doesn't hurt that it basically plays off Walter White versus more bizarre Sherlock Holmes either. Light and L are two of anime's most memorable characters, and age has not diminished their legacies in the slightest. It's endlessly fascinating to watch this genius high schooler who seemingly has it all versus the quirky detective who has this charisma to him that you just can't help but notice, which is another reason why Death Note is so easy to get into. It has tremendous characters that don't fall into the more out there anime tropes. Notice I was making comparisons for Light and L without actually using other anime characters. If you're not into anime and you suddenly see a character whose clothes fall off all the time, or is only around for fan service, or they yell a lot, it's probably going to be off-putting. That's not the case here. Everyone is fully fleshed out and feels real, which makes it so much more digestible. Plus, Death Note simply has an attention-getting premise. What would you do if you found a book that allowed you to take lives at will? How would you use it? Would you use it at all? These are questions for you and your psyche. The moral dilemma of it all can appeal to anyone. That's the hook. And then it's driven further with the show's psychology, suspense, and the twists and turns that constantly keep you on your toes as you're waiting to see what happens next. And only once that's happened does the show smartly touch on some of its more anime elements, like the Shinigami eyes and whatnot. Basically, the show itself knows to let you dip your toes into the pool before fully diving in. Who knows, maybe you'll stick with the Shinigami theme like I did. The focus on the cat and mouse, back and forth aspect between the leads, along with the tremendous soundtrack and visuals, make you forget you're watching a cartoon. The themes of justice, power, and morality pose these philosophical questions about the nature of good and evil and the consequences of absolute power, and it just leaves you enthralled by what you're watching. Another underrated factor that goes into this is how excellently the show is dubbed. If you want to start watching anime and you don't have someone screaming in your ears, you have to watch the sub. You're probably going to start watching these shows dubbed first. So the fact that this show has incredible dubbing only makes it more accessible for any first-timers. Plus, by anime standards, it's short. Honestly, the old school shonen are a chore to pitch to people because no one wants to commit to 500 episodes of something they haven't seen and don't know if they'll like or not. Death Note is 37 episodes long, though honestly it should have been longer so the second half wasn't as rushed, but that's an incredibly manageable load for someone to take on. A lot of shows that people watch nowadays are 40 minutes long, so 37 episodes at 22 minutes a pop is basically 20 episodes of a show. Any binger can knock that out in a week. All of these things add up to help break people away from the stereotypes and preconceived notions they may have before watching an anime. Death Note isn't for kids. It doesn't involve tentacles going into orifices. It's dark, mature, and a thrilling battle of wits, and once those stereotypes have been removed, viewers are far more likely to give other anime a chance. Typically by the end, they're craving more. Maybe they want to continue to ease their way in with more realistic anime with similar elements, something like Erased or The Promised Neverland, Season 1. Maybe the goal is to watch something closer to your favorite childhood show and recapture the excitement of a shonen that deals with the afterlife. Those will lean more into the absurdity of anime, But once you're in, you're in. And before you know it, you're watching things you never expected, like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure or Reincarnated as a Slime. That's how it goes. So if you're on the fence about anime or have someone you're trying to get into it, play them Death Note Episode 1, sit back and watch, because the snowball effect will come and they'll be hooked.